Hi, everybody. My name's Larry, and I'm an alcoholic. And I want to thank Michael for asking me to come out here. And it's good to see some new people here. I want to thank the 10-minute speaker. Thought he did a good job. Could have listened to him all night. In fact, we damn near did. But I'm glad to be here. And if you're new, I'm happy that I'm sober. And I know those two words don't belong in the same room, being happy and being sober. I've never been happy about being sober. And coming to Alcoholics Anonymous the last time didn't put on a warm glow either, because that seemed to be my problem. I kept getting drunk and I kept getting sober. And if you're new, my sponsor tells me that I'm living proof that a man can stay sober for close to 19 years and not amount to a damn thing. He says, I'm not much, but I'm all I think about. And I know that there's a little of that in here tonight. But I'm happy that I'm sober. And for close to 20 years, I drank and put chemicals in my system and ran around crazy, never knowing that there was an answer, living that nightmare that I wouldn't die. And I kept coming to and having to start to live that way again. And now for close to 19 years, I've lived an entirely different way. And I'm not afraid to wake up anymore. Mondays don't scare me. I don't have to look over my shoulder. And there's no pending doom. I don't have to wonder where I'm going and who I'm with. And I don't need people to tell me how good I'm doing to feel good. I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, they teach you this isn't about not drinking. You see, if you're new, I urge you to get the book Alcoholics Anonymous and read the doctor's opinion. And if you're keen, you'll find out that it's in the front of the book. And they talk about alcoholism and what you have. And in that chapter, they talk about a phenomenon of craving. And they talk about this conversation that this doctor had, and that he had with this leading psychiatrist, and that the only answer the psychiatrist told this guy, the only answer for an alcoholic of your type, and he kept on saying that throughout this chapter, the only answer for an alcoholic of your type is entire abstinency. And then the next paragraph starts out, this would start a seething cauldron of debate. And then it talks about people like me and you. And you know why it started a seething cauldron of debate? Is because that's the dilemma of people like me and you, an alcoholic of our type. Is that's when the problem starts. Is we've been sober. And now you're telling me that the answer is entire abstinence. And I've been sober, and that's never worked before. In fact, sobriety drove me to drink time and time and time again. I couldn't stand the way that I felt when I was sober. Which is why the following chapters are about applying these steps to your life. First, you find out what you got, and you have to realize that you got to stop drinking. And because it's so damn miserable, we have these steps to take that put you in a state of living that makes sobriety bearable. Now, if you're new and you feel good, you may not need us. You can just grab your stuff and get on your way. But if you're an alcoholic of my type, the longer you stay sober, the longer you don't drink unless your ass falls off. 30 days later, come back, no ass, the worse your life seems to get, And thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank God for a program of action where people like me and you can gather around and sit in a room for an hour and a half with people you don't like and come away feeling good, and come away feeling good. If you're new and you're sitting in this meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, this is not the answer. Sitting in a room for an hour and a half is not the answer. Getting a brick on the wall is not the answer. Being a genius is obviously not the answer, It's not about knowledge. It's not about believing that you have it. You've got a disease that the more you know about it, the worse off you are. Because there are plenty of people who come in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous who don't even reach AA, even some of them, who know they're an alcoholic and it's not enough to stop them. Why is that? Because they got a mind that doesn't give a crap. whether they got it. You have a disease. You don't have a mood swing. You have a disease that when you're sober, the only thing it tells you to do is, let's go. It's time to get it on, baby. You've got a mind that is relentless. And you are a captured audience. And you've got a mind that don't even give a crap that you're in AA. In fact, your mind is good for one thing, talking crap. And it doesn't care that you're sober. And you will spend most of your time when you're new debating this head, fighting this head off, because this head has got you. That's why you need to get a sponsor. Get a sponsor. Get somebody who's been doing this deal longer than you. Now, if you're new and you don't know what a sponsor is, several of you guys in here used to go to the drag races. Maybe some of you still do. Years ago, the dragsters were going so darn fast that the front wheels were lifting up off the ground, and these things were going airborne. And the drivers of these dragsters were getting killed. So the engineers got together with some of these aerodynamics guys, and they designed this thing that they put on the back of the dragsters called a spoiler, that no matter how fast that dragster goes, the front wheels stay on the ground. Hence the name sponsor. You know, no matter how crazy you get, your sponsor will firmly keep you on the ground. Now, he may not, wipe your rear and all that, but he will say kind and loving things like, well, where in the hell were you last night? Get a sponsor that is like that. Get a sponsor who's not concerned about your emotions, but concerned about where you were last night. And get a commitment if you're new. And what is a commitment? Well, you don't have to get a commitment that has something to do with your meeting you're in. Making coffee, setting up chairs. Get something to hook you into your meeting, and then something to sit you down in your chair. Because that's the most important commitment an AA member has, is filling that chair. Make a commitment to be at a certain meeting every week so that people who know you will know where to find you. And we have a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous who don't believe in home groups. They just go from meetings to meetings to meetings to meetings, and nobody gets to know them. How you doing? Fine. And if you're gone for a week or you're sick, nobody misses you because nobody gets to know you. And that's why I've got a home group where I'm accountable for, where I can go in and I can fit in and I don't feel like a guest because I've helped set up or I've helped make the coffee or I've done something to take part in that meeting besides just sit and put in a buck or maybe dodge the basket. You know what I mean? And so I'm glad to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And being a member of Alcoholics Anonymous puts on your shoulders something that you've been running from your entire life, and it's responsibility. We have responsibilities being a member because it's up to us to keep these meetings alive. And I love my sobriety today. And I come from a good home. My mom and dad aren't the reason why I drank, for Christ's sakes. I spent an entire lifetime looking around me trying to find out something, give me a reason why I feel so crappy. Oh, yeah, there's things going on in my life, but not enough to make me feel this crappy, I feel crappy. Yeah, I got some goofy folks and some stuff going on, but I really feel a lot goofier than what's going on around me, And my mom I was born in Detroit, come out to California when I was about 4 years old, brought up in a little foster home. My mom was a Scandinavian lady, little one about 5 foot, and she loved diet pills. My mom was always buzzing around the house, eating speed all the time, trying to fix things, and I knew if I ever wanted any love or affection, I could find my mom in the garage around 4 o'clock in the morning sorting out nuts and bolts all damn night, And she'd take that speed, and she loved to crochet. She was always, doing Afghans, and she'd take that speed, and everything in the house had a damn fresh Afghan, man. The chairs had Afghans, the couches had Afghans. My dad's golf clubs had little chipmunks she just knit, and if there was any animals running around, they had a fresh vest on, and just a busy lady, man. And she got the gas power edger one night, and she took off and she did the whole damn block, man, did 10 minutes, Just a busy lady, and she loved to do those jigsaw puzzles. My mom would take that speed and do these jigsaw puzzles, these 40 million piece jigsaw puzzles of the Yuma Desert, She'd go to Save-Ons and get her a carton of Raleigh cigarettes because they had the coupons on the back, and she'd save these coupons to buy more yarn. It was a hideous cycle she was caught up in, She'd come home. My mom owned one moo-moo her entire life, and that thing was always shiny in the wrong places, and she'd come home and start putting together this puzzle, and she had a big pair of toenail clippers, so if she got a piece that didn't fit, well, she'd snip that son of a bitch right down till it did, 'cause she had a job to do, man. I remember being a little kid, and my mom and dad always hid stuff in the kitchen cabinets. My dad's booze was always stored by price. He had the cheap wine by the disposal, and all the good vodka and bourbon was way up high, you know. And my mom would always have her pills in the kitchen cupboard, and I remember grabbing a couple of those Dexies and being about 8 years old and just took one of those things, and man, I just stood right there in that little spot doing 100 miles an hour, man, just trying to beat my eyes into the next room, you know, and I ran off into the garage. I closed the garage door. I start putting together this model, and every now and then I'd look out the window and I'd see this black and white flashes, and that was the damn sun going up and down, you know. I come out of there about 3 days later, you know, and she was there with a fresh lunch all wrapped, you know, here, like that. And she was just a busy lady. I had 2 sisters. I had one that was a baby sister. She got all the attention because she's the baby. I got an older sister because she's smart and good looking, and I'm stuck in the middle. You know, and my dad's a refinery worker. My dad was a happy drunk. My dad was a happy singing the Mills Brothers, Nat King Cole, Bobby Darin drunk boy. He loved to get drunk. He made drinking look good. All right, he was a miserable man when he was sober, but he was a happy drunk. And my dad wanted me to do well, and I didn't know that. I thought he was always riding me, you know. But Dad was a happy drunk, and Dad was always sneaking into his own house. He was a window climber, you know, and every now and then my dad would, you know, sneak through my bedroom window. I could feel his boot on my chest as he's coming in for the night, you know, and I remember grabbing it one night, you know, hey, why don't you have Mom make you a set of keys, you know? Hell, she's up anyway, you know. I mean, I can hear the Hoover going now, you know. And but my dad wanted me to do well, and, you know, I grew up hating that man because I knew deep down inside that I could never make that guy happy, not because his demands were so low or so high, but it was because that I didn't have what it took. I was never one to complete a job. I could start out things and have great ideas, and I'm good for 3 weeks, you know. And I remember being about 11 years old, and there was 4 of us, and I'm not running around crazy, and I'm not running around, you know, trying to hang myself or anything like that, but I'm constantly unhappy about being me and where I'm at and who I'm with. And that don't leave you a whole lot of stuff to be happy about, you know. And I'm constantly in a state of wondering what's wrong with me. And I know that's not right. Because the kids around me are going to the same schools and doing the same thing, and they seem to grasp and develop a manner of living. And I didn't. And when I come to Alcoholics Anonymous, I found out that there was about two sets of people. Some people would come to Alcoholics Anonymous. They seem to grow up, make an adjustment to life, start drinking, it gets bad, they come to AA, they get sober, and everything's wonderful. And then there's guys like me and gals like me who never make that adjustment to life, and at an early age they start drinking, and they get sober, and they have nothing to return to. They wouldn't know normal living if it hit them in the knee. And so when people are surrounded by people like me and you telling them, just stop drinking and shape up, and they do, and those are the kind of people they're always bringing to my side. Hey, Danny used to drink with you, and he just got married. Look at him. Why can't you do that? You know, Bobby used to drink with you, and he got religion, and he shaped right up. Why can't you do that? You know, where's your willpower? What's wrong with you? You know, and because alcoholics of my type, none of those things work for us. They may work for the moderate drinker, and I think that's what's confusing about that is because we're surrounded by people who tell us if you stop drinking, everything will be all right. And what happens with people like me and you, we stop drinking, and it's not all right. God damn it, it's the worst thing to do. Is if you think the first couple of days are bad, you know, hell, the shakes are entertaining. You know, when, you know, give me some hallucinations to entertain me. You know, because I've been running from life my entire life. I've been running from reality. I didn't know what to do with it. And anyway, I didn't. At 11 years old, there was 4 of us. We took a bottle of Four Rose whiskey, and for the first time in my life, I knew this is what I was supposed to be feeling. Now this is feeling good. And this is what those guys were feeling when they were hitting home runs and getting good grades. And I took that shot of that Four Rose whiskey, and I wasn't pissed off about being me anymore. In fact, being me was all right. And I've never been happy about being me. But more important than that, it shut off my head. That inexhaustible mind of mine. That thing that's relentless. The thing that keeps you up all night. You know? And it shut off my head, and man, it gave me the best half hour of my life, and then I puked. you know. But I didn't head out the skid row that very next day, but I connected happiness with something for the first time in my life. I wasn't, you know, all I can tell you is at the age of 11, sobriety stopped working. I'd had all I could have of being sober. I found something that was going to make it easy for me. And I didn't have to worry about where I was going to do when I grow up, or if I should go in the Navy, or what does Dad want me to do, because the moment that I would get restless, irritable, or discontented, or I'd have to face some kind of responsibility, I knew I could take a shot of my dad's wine or whiskey. Now, like I said, I didn't head out the skid row that very next day. But I tell you, when I got into high school, I finally found a group of people that made me feel more a part of life than anybody I'd ever met, and that was the lowriders. And I love the lowriders. I was a freshman in high school, and I ran around with a bunch of guys, and we'd get our hair up like a big Bakersfield tumbleweed, you know, and we'd bounce around and listen to the Four Tops and the Temptations and the OJs and Marvin Gaye. God, I loved it, man. I was in my plumbing truck a couple of weeks ago, and the Four Tops came on. I just started sinking in my damn plumbing truck, man. I loved it. I had a Mexican girlfriend named Lupe, and she used to grit her hair up real big, and she'd curl her hair with these little soup cans, and sometimes the potatoes were stuck in there, you know, and we'd bounce around all night, you know, and I'd have three guys in the back seat of that car, and they looked just like me, and all you can see were our eyes and a frown going, "Hey, what's happening?" You know, like that, and we weren't driving around because we were bad. We were driving around with that look because our asses hurt bouncing around all night, you know. But, man, we'd eat those Reds and drink that wine and wonder what the hell you're staring at. What are you looking at, man, you know? I ran into a kid not too long ago, man. It was about 3 Christmases ago. I'm in the Glendale Mall, and this kid walks by me. He's got a bald head, everything on his body. He's all tatted down. He's got a tank top on. He's got a big pair of pants on. You could put about 3 kids in, you know. He's got 4 beepers because he's an important kid, you know. And everything in his face is chained together. He's got his eyes pierced and his lips pierced. He's got a chain going from his ear to his wallet, you know, and he's got a ball bearing in his tongue, you know. And I walk by him, and he goes, "What are you looking at?" And I said, "Hell, I don't know what I'm looking at, man." You know, I wanted to spray him with some WD-40 or something like that, man. What am I looking at, man? Let me lock you to the bike rack, you little son of a, you know, and what am I looking? Now I sponsor the kid, you know. And first thing I told him, man, I want you to call me every day, get a commitment, and grow some hair, for Christ's sakes, you know. God damn it, you know. But I understand what that's all about, man. Look at my hair and look at my ball bearings, but, you know, don't get in where it's really happening, you know. Don't find out what I really am, because what I am is a scared kid bouncing around with an image. And alcoholics of my time live their entire life going from image to image to image to image, because it's much easier to fulfill an image than to do what you're supposed to do in reality. There's no responsibility in image making up, you know. And I'd bounce around with those guys, and I found out, man, that I found the key to life in the front seat of that Chevrolet, you know. And I knew that whenever I would drink that wine and eat those Reds, that everything was going to be all right, you know. And, I mean, you know, I didn't drive around and, "Hey, Rudy, yeah? I'm feeling kind of fearful." You know, I mean, you know, you just suck it up. And I had a good time, man, and I had a good time. And I loved the way that I lived, you know, and everything that I'd ever need in life was going to be found in that Chevrolet, you know. And I remember them being sometime in your high school class, they got a driver education class, like you haven't driven before, you know. And I'm taking summer school because I'm always getting kicked out of school. And so it's a summer school, it's a hot day, it's my turn to drive. The coach says, "All right, Thomas, get into the car." So I get my hair into the car, you know. There's these 3 girls in the back seat. And, "All right, I want you to pull over here and parallel park." So I parallel park, you know, and seemed to do all right. And he says, "Well, you're doing pretty good. Look, it's kind of a hot day. Why don't you go up to Torrance Boulevard and go to the Jack in the Box? I want to buy everybody some Pepsis." Oh, what a cool coach. So I drive up there, and I totally forgot that the night before we went out partying, and I just tied one on. And some guy gave me 4 Tuinals. You know, and I've been a good kid. I've just been drinking and doing heroin. Some guy gave me these 4 Tuinals, and they're half Seconal, half Amatol. You're knocked out telling the truth is what you're doing, you know. The Al-Anons love them, you know. Who's Juanita, you know, and so I took them all. You know, I didn't want to be, you know, we're driving around, and I just took them all. I didn't want to cop it, and, you know, maybe 4 don't work, so I just took them. You know, I never thought nothing of it. And you pull up to the Jack in the Box and order, and boom, these things nail me, man, you know, and I can't see, and I can't talk, and there's about 3 coaches now, you know, and you pull up to the puppet and order, you know. Well, I can't see the puppet, man, you know. I can hear the puppet, you know. Can I have your order, please? You know, he got that whiny little voice, so I put that one eye, and I go, you know, and I hear this big crash, and his puppet's head's hanging down like that, you know. And that kid's still in there. Can I have your order? I want to talk to the kid, you know. I want him to come out and be my designated driver, you know. And the cops come, and they arrest me, and they throw me on the hood of the car, and I don't, you know, drive till I'm 30, but big deal. Now you get to ride shotgun, man, and there's nothing like driving shotgun. You know, leave the driving to us, man. You can sit over there and, Jesus, man, you driving shotgun and you make that connection with the unknown world, man. For the first time in your life, you see yourself in a mirror. Boy, if you want to keep an alkie entertained, put a mirror in front of him, man. Ooh, man, are you good looking, man? And keep drinking that wine. Your hair gets bigger, your eyes get bluer, you know. And Jesus Christ, man, what am I doing in this car with these Mexicans? You know, I should be an underwear model, you know. I don't wear any, but what the heck, you know. Always dreaming, man. Anyway, around 1969, all my buddies seemed to be going places. Some of them are going to Vietnam, and some of them, could you get me a napkin, please? And some of them are turning hippie and going to San Francisco, and I wonder what I'm going to do with my life. And so me and my buddy decided to go back to Detroit and find my roots. And so I wind up in Phoenix. And, you know, and there's no roots there. You know, I'm over there at the Apache Motel overlooking the Wagon Wheel Bar, and me and this guy from Tennessee named Ernie, you know, and at this time in my life, it's just a matter of 3 Boilermakers, and I have this ability to sound like who's ever standing next to me in the bar. It's an amazing thing. I just pick up their characteristics, and I'd rather sound like them just to fit in, you know what I mean? Makes me feel a part of, you know? And because it's really something. One night you'll be in the Wagon Wheel Bar, and old Ernie will, "Hi, Larry, how are you?" "Well, I'm fine, how are you?" You know, and the next day you're in a Japanese bar, "How are you?" "Very good, how are you?" You know, as long as I'm not me, you know. So anyway, I hook up with this guy named Ernie, and Ernie's from Tennessee. He says, "Larry, I got an idea how we're going to make some money." He says, "There's a racetrack not too far from here," and he says, "You're going to be a jockey." Am I now? You know, and I'm all excited. I'm all ready to get into training and stuff like that. And he says, "Now, what we got to do, Larry," he says, "we got to get you down to 95 pounds. He says, now I'm going to be gone for 2 months, but when I come back, we're going to weigh you in, get you, you know, get us a pony and, you know, all that stuff." He says, "But you got to get down to 95 pounds. And then he gave me this bag of meth, you know. The guy comes back 5 days later, opens up, you know, and "Hi, Ernie, how are you?" You know, "What are you wrong?" You know, "I don't want to be a jockey no more, Ernie." You know, I'm standing in the same spot, man, you know, and lost about 30 pounds, you know. "I want to work at the Jack in the Box, Ernie." You know, "My head's going faster than any pony I've ever seen," you know. He just said, "All right, man." So he says, we went down there, and he says, and then I start getting these jobs. I never had a real job. I'm the kind of guy that gets jobs through Volt and temporary services and stuff like that. And I finally got a job through Manpower down there, and I was working as a ditch digger for a plumber. And there's nothing like being a ditch digger, and the boss is 10 years younger than you know, and you get that resentment. Boy, and it always happens at work, you know. Never happens but at work. Here I am digging that ditch going, "You son of a bitch." Look at you, you know, and just here I am, you know, just hating that guy, man. Finally, I fake an injury, takes me to the emergency ward, and I do what I always do. I fake an injury, I get me a prescription pad, and I just start writing them. Start drinking that Old Crow whiskey and writing for Percodan and Obitrol and Nembutrol and Seconal and you name it all. I wrote it all, you know. And me and Ernie start selling that paper and drinking that whiskey, and we went down to Tucson, and after close to 2 years, they finally caught up with me. Now, when you're loaded on barbiturates and whiskey, there's no freeway chase like they have down here. You know, "There he goes down the 405. You know, it's just a matter of the sheriff coming into your room going, "Oh, there's the little guy right there." You know, and kick you and put you in the car. And so they tried and convicted me and put me away down there for close to 2 years. And in 1974, I come back to California, and what happened is the probation department bought me a bus ticket, and they gave me like a voucher for $50. And then they take you to the Greyhound station, and they make sure you go out of state. And I come back to California, and hook up with the probation department over there at the South Bay Courthouse. And at this time, they introduced anabuse into my life, and I'm starting to visit some of the recovery centers around over there. And in 1974, I'm sober for about 2 weeks, and I'm in a Little League dugout over there in El Segundo. And the cops come and they arrest me because I'm in between hysterical and maniacal. It's a great place to be. It's like being 2 days sober, 2 days sober. And it's like being on acid, you know what I mean? Everybody's always having to talk you down. It's going to be all right, you're here on earth, you know. And they come there and they start talking to me, and they send me to the Harbor General Hospital, and they diagnose that some of my drug overdoses have been suicide attempts, and they send me to Camarillo to be observed for a month. And I came out of there about 12 months later with a bag of pills and a psychiatrist to see. And in early part of 1975, I'm over in Olvero Street, and I get picked up. Thank you. I get picked up for being publicly intoxicated, a violation of probation, public nuisance. So they send me back to Wayside, and I'm up there for about 60 days, and they put about 60 of us in a black and white bus, and they send us down to the South Bay Courthouse where we're going to be tried and sentenced. And 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm in a holding tank about this big, and there's nothing but me and bologna sandwiches, and I'm wondering where I'm going to go now. And I'm the only one left in there. And at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, there's a Scottish man with a patch who stuck his head in that jail cell. And he says, "Aye, lad." He says, "Are you Larry Thomas?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I am." He says, "Come with me. You're going to AA. My name's Alex." And I said, "AA?" I says, "I've never heard those two initials before. I've heard of OR and PO, but what's an AA, you know? And who's this Scottish pirate all of a sudden, you know? Aye, lad, you know?" And so, naturally, I'm ready for a long ride and maybe some lunch. And the guy takes me 6 blocks away to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I was in this little guy's Plymouth, a little lime green Plymouth, for about 15 minutes. And you know, for 15 minutes, that guy could have killed me. You know how he could have killed me? He could have killed me like we're killing him today. He could have lowered his car and pierced his ear and got down to my level to make me feel a part of AA. He could have talked my jailhouse lingo to make me feel good and be my bro. There was nothing more uncomfortable and disappointing than to be in a jail or be in an institution and have people come to AA and see these guys talking my language to make them feel a part of. And Alex told me he made it very clear that he'd been down where I was, and that if there was any changing that was going to be done, it was going to be done on my end of it. He said that and he talked you guys up a storm. He said Alcoholics Anonymous is a place where you get sober and find a brand new way of life. That's the key, a brand new way of life. Because the most conflict, the biggest area of conflict for people when they're new in Alcoholics Anonymous, or if they're hanging on, is that they try to stay sober and hang on to their old lifestyle. They want to come in here and be happy, joyous, and free and get all the goodies, or pretend they do, and then go home and try to work an honest program dishonestly. And it ain't jiving. And you can tell by their face. Alcoholics Anonymous isn't something you come and visit and recite. Alcoholics Anonymous is a way of life that evolves you out of the gutter that drove you here. And there's nothing more sad than to see people hang on to these images or get new ones when they get here. I got guys that I sponsor who don't get tattoos till they get 60 days, you know, so they can feel a part of, you know what I mean? And it's amazing. Alcoholics Anonymous is about fulfilling a spiritual void with a spiritual answer. It's not about being good and being wonderful and, you know, it's about not living by rights anymore, but about living by principles. Principles where when you have young kids in the room, it's not necessary to cuss, especially if they're in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. It would seem like this would be the place we could start, you know? And that's the kind of stuff this guy told me. You know, and for 15 minutes he could have killed me. And he took me to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous in 1975. He took me over to a club over there in Torrance called the Torrance La Medalana Club. And I'd never seen this place. And he walked me into this room and introduced me to a lady named Indian Jeannie and Singing Sam and Serenity Sam and you know, Captain Bob and Tennessee Bill and Santa Claus Ray and Bicycle Ray and Dancing Pete and Whistling Butt and a bunch of other people, you know. And I said, my God, I just, you know, left a group of people like this, you know. Little Moose was from Louisiana, and she comes running down. Hi, honey, my name is Moose, and I'm expecting a miracle. I said, I bet you are, man. I said, I'm not it, that's for sure, you know. And then this big transvestite came out of the card room, you know, and he said, he started circling me like a helicopter, you know, and he said, I can't wait to take you to a candlelight meeting. I said, I don't think so, you know, not for my first year anyway, you know. I got my pride, big fella, you know. And I said, my God, if that's AA, I'm not sure I want to stick around this place, you know. And if that's the effect of that blue book, I'm not sure I want to crack that thing open either, man. And I was immediately different, which doesn't take a guy like me long. And from 1975 to 1982, I came in to 1982, I came in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous on a regular basis. Now that don't make me special, and that don't make me more of an alcoholic or a better member. I hear people banting that stuff around here like it's their little badge of courage. I went to in and out for 20 years. Ain't that good? Well, what about these guys who have stayed sober for 30 years? What about these guys in this room who have stayed sober for 25 and 30 years, who day after day take their place in these meetings? That's where the attention should be brought to, because it's guys like that who keep rooms like this wide open for goofs like this to wander in here. You see, that's the oddity, is that people stay in AA. Majority of the people leave AA. Majority of people don't come in here and stay. And isn't it ironic? The majority of the people don't come here and do anything either. They come and visit for an hour and a half. But the doers seem to stay. They seem to have that look. They seem to have that thing where, you know what, this thing's more important to stay alive than anything else in my life. It's their primary purpose. And I came in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous 30 days and get drunk, 60 days and get drunk, and 90 days and get drunk. And the longest I could stay sober was 6 months because I was on heroin. And the biggest lie that I've ever told my life, my entire life, was that I was going in and out of AA. It was the biggest lie I've ever told. I hadn't touched Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't even know what an alcoholic was. I didn't venture into that book. I didn't get a sponsor. All I did, and I talked to a guy about this last night. He had 9 years, and now for the past 3 years, he's been trying to, and he can't get more than 60 days sober. You know why? Because he can't imagine life without it. He is sold on the fact that the future is nothing but bleak, and the only way for him to stop time is to be new all the time. You continually be new, and you seem to think you can stop the clock. And I told him what you folks told me, what you taught me. The biggest surrender you got to make here, if you're new, the biggest surrender isn't that not to drink anymore. Here's the surrender. You're either going to run your life and suffer the consequences, or you're going to let Alcoholics Anonymous run your life and suffer the consequences. That's the surrender. How's it going so far? And leave it to an alcoholic to have to think about it. Well, I don't know. You know, well, let's see. I ain't got no teeth. I'm bleeding everywhere. I'm in the Harbor General Hospital. Can you get back to me tomorrow on that, you know? And that's me. That's me. 1980, there's a guy doing his 12-step work. I'm over at the Don Hotel over there in Wilmington. I'm on the third floor. I got a hot plate and a hot TV. I got a half pint of bourbon in there, and I got my little long hair and my little lounge chair and my little Goodwill clothes, and I'm watching Jeopardy so I could really feel like an idiot, you know. Every now and then you get one right. Donald Duck. Yay! I am a smart man, you know. I don't need no college, you know. I'm a genius too, you know, and you know. And I hear this knock on the door, and I said, oh, my God, it's the landlord. Larry, it's Don. Oh, my God, it's that guy from AA. I didn't even call him, and he's coming over here, man. Why isn't he working? I ain't worked a day in my life, you know. He says, Larry, it's Don. Can I come in? And he opens up the door, and it's my first sponsor. He says, Jesus Christ, kid, what's going on? You had 15 days. You were going to be a janitor in the city of Alameda. There's some hope for you, you know. He says, what's going on? And I took a shot off of that bourbon, and I told Don, I says, look, I says, you've been trying real hard. I don't want what you have, and I don't want what you got. And if I ever get that bad, I'll know what to do. Now get the hell out of my room and let me do what I want to do. The cry of this alcoholic my entire life. Let me do what I want to do. And the moment that I said that, it struck a chord in the back of my neck that shot me back to 1967 when me and my father are fighting. I'm getting kicked out of high school because I was drunk and selling dope. And he's telling me, if you want to live like that, that's your business. But I've got a wife and 2 daughters, and you're not going to live like that under this roof. Now get your stuff and get out of here. It shot me back to 1972 when I'm coming out of that institution. And where do macho men go when there's no place to go? They go to Mom's house, don't they? I hear that's where you were. Yeah, me too. Yeah. They don't give chips for that, you know. And so, all right, good going, man. He got 90 days on Mom's couch. All right. And I'm on my mom's couch, and just like the days of wine and roses, man, I woke up in that panic, and I'm looking for that half pint, and I can't find that half pint, and I start tearing my little mom's house apart, start pulling stuff off the kitchen cabinet, the bathroom cabinet. She comes out of the... She goes, honey, what's wrong with me? And I start smacking that little lady around till I get blood. Macho man, huh? That'll make you feel good. Demanding that she come up with a bottle that she don't even know that's there, that I find in the trash the next morning. You see, that's the kind of stuff we do. And then there's the kind of stuff we do that we did when we weren't blacked out. And those are the things we pay the price for. Those are the little nuggets that keep us up all night. The little things that you dared hope nobody ever see you do. How could you do something like that? How could you sneak into your mom's house when she hadn't seen you for a year and a half, wake her up when she's watching Johnny Carson, to see you in your street mud, frighten her to death, for her to start crying and rocking you in her arms as she says, dear God, help my baby boy. And you tell Ma, don't worry about it. It's going to be all right. It ain't that bad. You see? And you run this, and it is amazing that none of this stuff is enough to keep you sober. Because me and you don't live like that for a week. Me and you don't live like that for a year. Me and you have lived like that our entire careers. Now, to the normal drinker, one night of the way we drank would be enough, and he would say, Jesus, man. But not to the alcoholic. Not to the alcoholic. We can't wait to start it all over again. We can't wait. And that's the dilemma you're in. That even your worst memory isn't enough to keep you sober. Your worst nightmare, the consequences of your physical condition, the promises you've made, none of it is enough to keep you sober. Why? Not because you have a disease. It's because it has you. You are totally powerless. Even when it stops working, your disease don't care. I hear that all the time. I stopped drinking because it stopped working. My head didn't care. That was then, this is now. We got a job to do. And thank God for the powerless. And that is your recognition. And on May 2nd, 1982, I come to grips with this thing called Alcoholics Anonymous. I come to grips that it wasn't my worst drunk and it wasn't my longest drunk, but it was the one that drank away the debate of whether or not I'm going to do what you people do and suffer the consequences, or I'm going to keep running my life and suffer the consequences. You know? And as a result of that, I turned myself into a sponsor and let some man start running my life and telling me how to do and when I'm going to do it and checking in. And to this day, I still have a sponsor. And to this day, I have a good life. I used to come into Alcoholics Anonymous and think it would shield me from life's little bullets. But what it's going to do is stick you smack bad in the middle of life, and you better have a program. You better have a place to go where people know you, because it ain't always going to be smooth. It ain't always going to be keen, but you can always be sober here in Alcoholics Anonymous. Bill Wilson lays it out really clear in that book. He says, we will teach you how to survive the certain low spots ahead. He's telling you they're going to be low spots, and he's telling you you're going to survive them. But you got to get here. You got to get here. You don't have to hide out and fight your feelings anymore. You don't have to live by those little goofy pep talks you give yourself anymore. You know? You come to Alcoholics Anonymous, and you don't even have to worry about getting the power. You come into this room, and you become part of the power. It's right here. Because when you bring your spark, and I bring my spark, something happens here that's never happened before in my life. I'm not concerned about whether I'm going to drink or not. It's all taken away when I'm with you, because something happens here in these meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's why it's so important that we be quiet in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, because if you want to talk, that's your business. But there may be a fella sitting next to you that needs to hear something. Because the miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous is one drunk talking to another. And isn't it ironic, when a fella needs to hear it, there's a fella saying it. And that's the magic of Alcoholics Anonymous. I've got a great life today because of Alcoholics Anonymous. What are you going to do with a guy like me? I didn't know nothing. I come from nothing. Alcoholics Anonymous made me a plumber. They took me out of the gutter and stuck me in the sewer, for Christ's sakes, you know. I have a good life. I've got a daughter that I wasn't supposed to see that I'm seeing on a regular basis, because if I can go to Washington and talk, then I can go to Phoenix and see my little girl, Lauren. And I love my baby girl. And my baby girl's doing good in school. I've got a wonderful wife that most of you know, and she's an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And she's the bright spot of my life, that little lady. I love my Rosie. I love my Rosie with everything that you've given me, because it's you who taught me how to take care of her. I didn't know that when I got here. I had all these ideas about what a man is, and it all had to do with validating my manhood and doing things to make me feel good that weren't right, because it meant hurting you to make me feel good. You folks taught me how to behave around a woman and how to behave around a child. And you taught me about respect for the thing called a wife and my fellow man in Alcoholics Anonymous. My little girl is 13 and she's doing real good in school. I'm no longer number one on her list. She's got the Backstreet Boys now, you know. She called me up the other day and she says, "Dad, the kids are making fun of me in school because I'm so smart." She said, "Did that ever happen to you?" I said, "Yeah." I says, "No, honey, but I know why they're doing it. They envy you. They envy you. You keep doing what you're doing and you're going to keep getting what you're getting." We have a good life here if you're new. If you're new, Alcoholics Anonymous did for me what I've been trying to do my entire life. And all my life, people have been trying to correct me by working on my mind and my attitude and my head. Alcoholics Anonymous took the only two things that I had decent left in my life, my feet. They trained my feet. So when my head's saying I'm not going, John's going to be there, Mike's going to be there, Bob's going to be there, I'm not going, I'm down at the meeting. You've trained my feet. My head no longer has power over me. Alcoholics Anonymous is my power. And regardless of what my head says, I don't have to believe it, and I don't have to have conversations with it. You have taught me what to do, and you've trained my feet, and once I'm with you, you got me. You got me. And I thank you for that. If you're new, I hope you're desperate, and I hope you're so desperate you do things that you know won't work for you. And may God be with you. But more important than that, I hope you stay in these rooms and find what we find in these rooms, that little power. It's God's great privilege to give you His kingdom, and you're in it right now. And I guarantee you, it's the God in me that sees the God in you. And when we're together, something miraculous happens. Something miraculous, we are relieved of the bondage of self. And what a beautiful feeling that is. Thank you.